Oh look, it's this guy again. So, I got a hold of Studio Series 86 Ratchet earlier this year, and I did like him a lot, but what I didn't like was the way they handled the deco. Specifically the translucent windows and not really matching white paint. The underlying figure is pretty great, but between the kinda sparse and mismatched whites and the fear of cracking those translucent plastic transformation hinges, I was happy to exchange him for this version. Said version being the exact same figure, but with zero translucent plastic, much better color matching, arguably better paint detailing, and... oh yeah. This is Studio Series 8628 Ratchet, colloquially known as Dead Ratchet. We'll talk more about that in robot mode, and honestly, this is the better version of 86 Ratchet. I'm not even joking, just look at this alt mode compared to the original release. In addition to all that white, the silver rims, and the red emergency lights, we also get so much more. The light blue for the windows alone, including the rear, is enough to make me happy, but now there's a red stripe going all the way along the sides, plus the auto-botified medical logo. Silver used on the front bumper is also used on the back now, which definitely beats the first release's completely blank white rear end. But in addition to that, look at the front bumper section. See how the silver is selectively applied to the front and then follows the fender around the side? Yeah, on the original, the silver was also applied to these corner sections. It looks so much better like this. I mean, it wasn't terrible before, but this gives it much more of a distinct shape. That's kind of the whole deal with this version of Ratchet, really. Aside from the gaping hole in the front windshield, which is also separated out in both light blue for the glass and silver for the interior, the alt mode looks much more lively and, well, finished here in comparison to the original release. Since it's the same figure as before, it's also the same size as before. Basically Voyager-ish, definitely bigger than a deluxe. It just looks prettier than the earlier release, even with the war wound. Oh, real quick, gonna show this off. There's a little hole there. We'll see this more in robot mode, but it is blast effect compatible because of course it is. Now, before we turn this into a robot, gotta plug the Coffee and Patreon, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, you could support the channel by doing the typical YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe. Now, to transform this guy, and this is again exactly the same as the Studio Series 86 original release. So, I'm gonna untab the pistols from the bottom and just put those off to the side. And now going to, it's still a struggle to disconnect this section up here, but at least I'm not terrified of breaking the translucent plastic because these pieces that the light bars are attached to, like these pieces here on the original, were plastic that had been painted white. It's just translucent and is scary to transform it. This, at least, I'm not freaking out about breaking the translucent plastic and popping this out. So pop that out. This can come down, so that can come out more. And these bits, we'll just do this now. These rotate in, like so. And this will just stay like this. Now we can separate these pieces, and they tab together, but there are these little bits here that plug in right here. So you want to untab that, and then these tab in, these little flaps tab in right down here. So bring those out and around all the way. You kind of want to bring them down and then get them past a certain point, and then you can fold these in. So get all that done. Untab the obvious arms from down here. Now all of this we'll just get this situated. This will swing down, and you rotate this around 180 degrees, and then this will come up and plug in right in here. And that gets the torso locked together. We'll deal with the upper body last, but I just wanted to get that situated. So now we can straighten out the legs, separate all of this, and you kind of want to do it in a specific way because there's like a T-tab connecting these flaps, so you actually want to push them apart like that. You don't want to pull, because you can kind of see that T-shaped tab there, so don't pull it like this. Do that, bring these up, and similarly you want to slide these pieces apart rather than pull. So I'm just going to shift and slide these apart because that's kind of like a hook tab. And then these bits just down here just tap together, so that unplugs. Now, this whole piece is on this multi-hinged armature. This comes down, swings in like that. This panel comes down. This window folds in, and then this piece folds underneath. This will now fold around, and there is a tiny tab here that'll plug in here. So bring that in, tab it in, bring this around, and this kind of tabs in. There's like this little tab here that's supposed to tab in here, but it doesn't hold. That's one thing I'll say about this version of the mold. And the other version, which I think probably because it was painted in the original release, these flaps stayed tabbed down. In this one, they do not, but it's not bad. Like, they're not flopping or anything. They're just easy to bump out of place, which is not the best, but it's not terrible. Now, for the upper body, for the arms, just like the feet, you don't want to pull them apart. You want to slide them apart because, again, it uses kind of a hook-shaped tab. So slide them apart, bring them down, and the shoulders will kind of tab around the torso. Flip out the fists, bring this little bumper section up, and lastly, going to, well, I mean, I guess you could do the G1 mode, but I bring this down, pull up the head, and I still really like how the bit here is cut specifically so that the head can fit right through it. So bring that up, fold this in, and then this just tucks inside the torso, closes up, and there is Ratchet. So the transformation is just like before, only a lot less scary. Still clever, still a bit annoying to untab the windshield from the roof, still Ratchet. And again, the deco is pretty much comparable, but I'd argue maybe better than the regular 86 version. Ignoring the torso and face, there aren't any additional paint apps, but as a representation of this particular version of the Autobot Medic, there doesn't really need to be any. Also, there's no clear plastic. And like the alt mode, the lack of translucent plastic means better color matching with the white, so those hinges along the sides of the legs blend in a lot better. And then there's that chest. I'm pretty sure there's nobody watching this that isn't already aware, but the whole point of this particular iteration of the 86 figure is to homage the Autobot massacre at the beginning of the movie. He even comes packaged with a similarly damaged brawn, and blast effect parts. Fun. This doesn't bother me so much as seems really, really weird. I get wanting to capitalize on memorable moments from the 86 movie in a subline devoted to that film, but a death scene in a cartoon intended for children is a really bizarre thing to turn into a toy. And just like in the van mode, you can blast effect the chest, so he is being shot. On the other hand, outside of the context of this being from a death scene, I feel like this still works as something a bit less grim, like extreme battle damage or something. And the combination of light blue and silver paint in the chest does a good job of making all that honestly impressive molded detail really stand out. There's a little bit more mold difference that applies to the head too, which has the same sculpting in the helmet and head crest, but a new face, which is painted gray instead of silver now. But the sculpt is the biggest change. As you can see, he's screaming, or yelling, or opening his mouth for a death rattle. Point is, Ratchet doesn't look stoic or bored anymore, for better or worse. It's also interesting how the mouth isn't actually painted. It looks like it is, right? But it's not. I'm not sure how well this is going to come across on camera because I can't get a light in there, but it's actually just that the opening goes back into the head quite a ways, so the naturally forming shadows do all the work. It's just a hole in the face that goes all the way through the head. I might not be super excited about the sculpt's concept, but the execution is really impressive. And surprise, surprise, the articulation is exactly the same as the other version of this figure too. Head is plenty expressive, wrist rotation, shoulders in and out, elbow bend, bicep swivels, waist swivel, forward and backward and out, and thigh rotation, and knee bend, and ankle tilt, and even forward and backward. It's got the same guns, which are also silver. They look nice for what they are. They can store his exhaust in the alt mode, or on the back in robot mode, or he can hold them, and they have blast effect nubs. And of course, like pretty much everything else I've talked about, this Ratchet is the same height as the other one. Sort of in the mushy area between today's $25 and $35 price points. So like a short Voyager or a tall Deluxe, I guess? Except he looks way better to me than the other one. Brighter, more vibrant, extra detailing, and in all honesty, I like the blue and silver combo in the chest, even if it's supposed to represent a gaping wound. I'd be lying if I said, or omitted saying, that I wouldn't have preferred getting this deco without the translucent plastic as a regular 86 Ratchet, but this is still good. Very good, even. I just really like this figure, okay? And having a version of it with better, more consistent colors and no translucent plastic worries is a great feeling. But that's enough of my words. What do you all think of this iteration of 86 Ratchet? Or the original? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will be sure to talk at you about toys in the next video.